3-drop creatures. Not a whole lot of removal, but he does have Unflinching Courage, the reprint of Armadillo Cloak.
Joshua Snyder's playing blue, white, red. He's a little more built for the longer game. He intends to win with his Flyers or his Assemble the Legion. Or that True Fire Paladin.
Yeah, True Fire Paladin, not a bad start. I do want to root for Josh in this match, though, just because he's swanky enough to come with the unhinged basic mountain.
Yeah, came prepared with his own lands. Got to appreciate a man who's ready to sealed.
Yes, sir. So we have a Thrill Kill Assassin coming out from Richie Chow. I wouldn't be surprised if he just leaves it on the chain, if you will. Doesn't unleash it. Wants it to block and trade with his Death Touch with the the True Fire Paladin.
Josh considering whether he wants to do much of anything here. Obviously, he can activate, so there's not going to be a block there.
Yep. If we can get True Fire Paladin up on the screen for just a moment, it does have a lot of abilities for a 2-mana creature, both only costing 2 to activate. He automatically has Vigilance, which is awesome. He can pump himself and give himself First Strike, so it's going to be very hard for Richie to actually deal with that card with anything less than like a 5 toughness creature, or potentially just a removal spell.
Now Josh didn't get in for an extra 2 points here and pass the turn on turn 3, so he could have a variety of cards. Dramatic Rescue and Izzet Staticaster are the two I would guess, and there's Izzet Staticaster right down during the end step.
And that's one of the cards that I thought got a lot better with the release of Dragon's Maze. Now that all 3 sets are together, you have all of those X1 creatures from Gatecrash entering into the fray, and that allows cards like Izzet Staticaster to gain a lot of value, whereas before in triple Return of Ravnica, there were too many creatures with 2 or better toughness, not a whole lot of X1s in that format. Looks like Joshua bricked on a land even though he got to Racketeer.
Yeah, he went ahead and cast the Racketeer before attacking here. I think he should have sent that True Fire Paladin in again.
Yeah,
he would have gotten a free 2 points. If Richie declined to block last turn, he's very likely to decline to block this turn as well.
Yep.
And worst case scenario, he would have actually just not had a Viashino Racketeer on the board since it didn't even draw him a land in the first place.
Right, and you could make the argument that he could double block with the Thrill Kill Assassin and the Basilica Guards, but if you recall, he can't get First Strike. Just First Strike down the Thrill Kill Assassin, only take 1 damage from the Basilica Guards. So I don't think that Richie would have blocked, but now he has the Arrest to lock it down a little bit, decides to do a little bit of extorting with the Basilica Guards, and is right on top of all of Joshua Snyder's stuff.
Yep, Josh has definitely been shut down for the time being. He'll need to find some more lands or get some better creatures onto the board, because Viashino Racketeer and Izzet Staticaster are not the most intimidating of tag teams.
Yeah, and it could be that Joshua's going more for the long game, but he definitely needs to draw some lands to be able to get there.
Yeah.
Missing on that Racketeer was pretty brutal. I'm not sure what this attack from the Racketeer can represent. Maybe a couple of combat tricks. Maybe.
Yeah. Marshall Glory is the one that speaks the
Rubble Belt Maka, which I finally remembered the name of that card.
Maka.
Old Giant Growth Hill Giant.
That's
Hill
also
Giant
a
Growth.
live one.
That's a way better. Hill Giant Growth.
Hill Giant Growth is the best name for that card by far.
Now I feel dumb. Just bricked on that one. So, New Prov Guildmage, not too intimidating, though it can give the creatures on his side flying. Not enough mana quite yet to start detaining creatures.
Yeah, this is already looking like it's going to be a good grind match. Richie obviously has the Extort to stem the bleeding, and Joshua doesn't have the resources to get through for more than a couple points at a time. So Extort will be able to really just work the board, keep it very stable, while Richie continues to use his mana to expand and Josh tries to catch up.
Yep, and if Richie does have a removal spell here and decides to hold up for it, I don't think that Joshua can really afford to attack at all. Because, if he does try to do that combat trick, Richie can blow him out with a Putrefy, something of that nature, and really punish him. But it looks like all that Richie has coming down here is just a 4/4, just the Corpsejack Menace. I knew the name, saw the card in his hand.
Good job.
Yeah, got it.
Corpsejack Menace is a sweet card. It got a lot better, I think, in full block than it was in Archaean. It was already one of the better rares. But once you get to utilize some things like the Simic cards,
I don't know,
Ivy Lane Denizen.
What do you mean, like, Evolve?
Evolve might be good.
Yeah, is that okay? Is this good? So Corpsejack Menace, definitely a good card when you're crossing over guilds. And it's still especially powerful with Scavenge, but now that you have more things to put counters on it, you can play a lot of cards like Thrill Kill Assassin, things with Unleash. If you play it in a a Jund version of a sealed deck, you can get a lot more of those red creatures with Unleash in there, and Corpsejack Menace really buffing them up.
Joshua still bricking on lands and appears just stymied at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough for him to come back if he doesn't draw a couple lands in the next few turns.
Now, we do have to keep in mind, he represented a combat trick when he attacked with that Viashino Racketeer, and Richie's no doubt thinking that through himself, like, do I really want to send my 4/4 in here? Whatever he had was, good enough to make Viashino Racketeer worth attacking with, but...
Alright, so he moves the Staticaster out of the way. There's no way that thing's blocking. If he does have a Marshal's Glory, I assume he would block with the new Prof Guildmage, though, because that would make it a 5/5 as opposed to a 5/4.
He does have the Martial Glory, but he's seeking to get a 2-for-1 instead of just trading off
I
his
guess
glory.
he thought that if Richie did have a removal spell, he'd much rather lose the Racketeer as opposed to the Guildmage, since Guildmage going long. However, removal spell there would have been very bad anyway, and I would much rather just have the 1-for-1 and still keep my 2/1 in play.
Yeah.
The 2/1 being locked down pretty easily by the Basilica Guards, though, so I can see the argument for both.
Yeah, the 2/1 is, close to not a card, but at the same time, when you could just still have it on the board, obviously a temptation to go for that. And that's really a resource management issue, when you're deciding exactly how important something is. Much like in chess, where, it's just material. You have to decide how to trade it.
Right. Here we have Hazda
Snare Squad.
Snare Squad.
This is one of Brad's favorite commons in the set, right? He liked it a fair bit from what I was seeing.
I don't know, man. I don't talk about the Pro Tour drafts.
Whoa.
That's hidden information violation.
I wasn't aware that his 1/2 deck was that big a deal, but Hazda Snare Squad is a pretty reasonable 1/4 as far as 1/4s go in the format. Obviously, we have a few of them, but this one is a little more offensively minded. It's really great at just breaking open these combats where your opponent's relying on one defensive creature. Right. The problem being, in Dragon's Maze, it's very easy to get a pair of 2/4s on the field, and then Hazda Snare Squad is like a lot more awkward.
Yeah, and I want to note again that I'm no longer rooting for Joshua Snyder because he does not have unhinged islands. So no, but and what you were saying about Hazda Snare Squad is very true. However, I do think he's a great defensive creature as well, and that's something that people don't really look at since they're too focused on his tapping ability. He's great on both offense and defense since he does have such a high toughness. If you notice, a lot of the cards in Dragon's Maze are very good at being both aggressive as well as defensive. I mean, we've already talked about in mass yesterday with Voice of Resurgence. It's a card that's great both against control and aggro decks.
Sure.
I think that they really thought through a lot of those cards. They just wanted to have cards that were versatile.
I think as a whole, I agree with you. The set is, pretty polar. It's not very polarized as far as like card utility. Even things like Master of Cruelties is like an excellent blocker and a reasonable attacker.
I would say reasonable and limited is an understatement. He either completely destroys one creature or sends them to 1 life. You get the pick. It's fine. So Joshua contemplating a trade here with his new Prof Guildmage against either of the Death Touch creatures and ultimately declines. I would not have been sad to see the Hazda guy block the either of the creatures and then Staticaster finish it off.
Yeah.
Since I don't think he's going to be attacking with it too much, since they both have Death Touch and not a whole lot else going on his side. I assume that he'd want to just trade off one of his creatures with one of Richie's.
Yeah, I think I would have probably gone for the Key Rune to try and keep my opponent off of something like Grizzly Spectacle or any of the other dangerous double black cards.
It seems like he has a lot of planes and not a lot of the other colors going on right now.
Josh hit a 4th land, but doesn't have anything yet, which is kind of interesting.
Well, he could have Warrior Leader's Helix, various other things, but I do have his deck list in front of me. I guess
I have his deck list.
I could just.
I actually believe he has a Dramatic Rescue in his hand. For the viewers at home, I think I spotted it a little earlier.
Okay. Is there no merit to just like using it main phase and recasting? But
I think he's more intent on using it defensively as opposed to saving his Truefire Paladin.
Right.
Which I think would be a reasonable use of it. Obviously, Truefire Paladin pretty strong against this particular board, but at this point he's getting a little low in life. It's starting to get dangerous.
Yep, and especially with that Basilica Guards looming, every spell he casts for the rest of the game, he's probably going to be able to extort it, considering how much mana he has in play. He's losing both of his creatures here, but he's going to finish off the Key Rune as well with the Staticaster after combat. Both of his creatures dying in combat due to Death Touch.
So what changed this turn, do you think, that made Josh want to make this trade as opposed to last turn? Because he had the same access. Do you think it was just the Soul Griffin representing a much sterner clock than he was expecting?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's totally merit.
Yeah, there's very little follow-up for me to say other than yes, because that's definitely what it was. Yeah, the Soul Griffin, big power flyer, he didn't really have a way to interact with it, and before he was only taking 3 damage, whereas now he's taking 6. But the Dramatic Rescue end of turn, gonna gain him a couple points of life, force Richie to recast it during his next turn. okay with soaking the 3 damage to basically time walk Richie.
And I think I saw 1,000 Lashes in Richie's hand as well. He's apparently holding back on that. Obviously, he needed the black mana to activate his key rune, so he didn't have the ability to cast it and activate.
Yep.
So Josh, a little breathing room maybe.
Yep, and the board is clear of threats for now. He has at least a couple turns since he is at 11 life due to the 2 life from Dramatic Rescue. Richie, though, does have that Assault Griffin coming back down this turn. He's got a few more spells in hand, including what Glenn said, the 1,000 Lashes, which, is not bad. Deals a couple points of damage. I wouldn't be unhappy to see it go onto the Izzet Staticaster, simply because that card can potentially lock down some of the threats in Richie's deck,
Right.
as well as one of the threats in Richie's hand already.
Josh draws a Selesnya Guildgate. He's running Selesnya Guildgate in his deck to help him splash a Tristani Summoner. He has the Guildgate and Prophetic Prism, enabling him to cast the big ol' 7-drop.
Yeah, that guy is definitely what we were calling a Mythic Uncommon. 10 power for 7 mana, and you put a bunch of different bodies into play. Pretty absurd. Brian Braun-Duin has one in his deck, which we saw in round 1 on camera. His opponent used his Gaze of Granite just like a turn too early, killing a 4/4 Centaur token, and then BBD followed it up with 10 power, and along with Ivy Lane Denizen was just a lot of damage, and
That'll do.
yeah, the Gaze of Granite, though, if he had just saved it for one more turn, would have turned the game in his favor significantly. But
Sure.
here we have Richie Chow suiting up Unflinching Courage on his Assault Griffin, battling Josh for 4. He desperately needs an answer or he's going to die.
Yeah, that was an Extort for 1, an attack for 5, gains Richie 5, puts him up to 27. Now, Josh, he has punished the enemy, I believe, in his hand, but that's no longer good enough. That's exactly good enough with Izzet Staticaster, so I think that's what he's just going to do, right? Yep.
So dealing 3 to it with that, and shooting it with the Staticaster so long as Richie doesn't have a way to pump it. I don't think he does. I believe his hand is Forest as well as a creature that dies is a Staticaster. I do not recall which one.
The 1,000 Lashes, I think, we discussed, might have been an ideal target on that Izzet Staticaster.
Right.
Looks, Syndic of Ties, helping
Are we
Joshua
positive it
claw
was
ahead.
not Unflinching Courage?
I'm pretty sure that he has Dagger Drum Imp, and I thought 1,000 Lashes. Maybe it was
I think the
Unflinching
Unflinching Courage was what you thought the 1,000 Lashes
We might have
was,
been off
wasn't
on
it?
our gold aura then in that case.
Yeah.
Because, now I see Tithe Drinker, Dagger Drum Imp, so...
Yep, and
Good call.
not a whole lot going on for Richie now since that Staticaster is taking care of all his stuff. Syndic of Tithes from Joshua Snyder. Now he's got 7 mana all of a sudden, and he can afford to pay the Extort while casting all of his spells.
And the age-old adage of screw beats flood perhaps going to come true here. Josh, obviously, a little mana screwed early on, but because he had so many spells, once he started to peel those lands, he can actually overcome Richie's flooded state, especially with some of Richie's spells not even live.
Yeah, so he did get a 2-for-1 Richie with the punish the enemy along with the Izzet Staticaster, and now Izzet Staticaster acting as a potential like 3 or 4-for-1 since Richie already has 2 dead cards in hand. But that Assemble the Legion is gonna be good.
Yeah. Josh probably pretty happy he's the one with the Izzet Staticaster.
Yeah, no joke.
Obviously, it's been very good in the game, but it's also one of the few cards that can actually match Assemble the Legion, which will pretty rapidly take over this game if Richie doesn't do something quick.
Yeah, right. Like, they didn't reprint Mortify or any solid way, really, to deal with Assemble the Legion outside of, like you said, is that Staticaster. There's a rare and Detention Sphere, maybe a couple really big bombs that could race it or something. But
Wear and Tear or other enchantment removal is one of the few solutions in the entire set.
yeah, and Wear and Tear, actually, I do like to main deck that card a lot in Sealed, simply because people are very reliant on key runes a lot of times to fix their mana. And you have the added benefit of being able to kill an Arrest or various other passive effects, and that just makes having an answer to Assemble the Legion that much sweeter. Here it looks like we're putting Alpha Authority on a Syndic of Ties. Gonna suit that guy up. Only giving him +1/+1 right now, but once he starts drawing 2 cards a turn, it gets a little bit better.
Yeah, Righteous Authority, pretty big deal, and...
Nope. Wrong one. It's cool, though. That card's way worse.
Alpha Authority is one of those cards that tricks you. You read it and you think like, maybe this is
If
good,
it was
and then you think about
+1/+1,
it some more.
if it was even +1/+1,
Sure.
it would be playable. But auras that don't outright win the game on their own or have some great effect either the turn they come into play or the very next turn. Like Righteous Authority, I think, is a good example because it can give a boost to your creature immediately if you have a large hand. It also can draw you out of like a mana flood, or if you hit your 5th land, you can draw a mana screw even. There is the danger always of playing auras where your opponent can have a removal spell for it, but getting that 1 extra draw for the first turn, negates the drawback of getting 2 for 1. So.
Yeah, I like Righteous 30 a fair bit in the full block format. I know it was a good card back in RTR, like a lot of people rated it highly. I actually wasn't one of those people. It was one of those cards that I would play frequently but not be excited about or happy about.
Right.
And it certainly was played against me to reasonable effect at times as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised Josh didn't actually attack here with his Syndic of Tides. I feel like all the combat tricks that Richie could have wouldn't be great on defense here. I mean, maybe Giant Growth is the only one I can really think of that would punish him for that attack. He's not playing blue, so there's no Azorius Charm. There's very few things he could have had there that weren't just straight up spot removal anyway, which he would have used already to kill it.
Sure.
All right, Krakenura.
Big time.
I can block flyers. Unfortunately, that is irrelevant. So Joshua looked like the Assembled Legion is going to take over the game quite easily at this point. He's going to start making a ton of creatures over the next few turns. Along with that Alpha Authority, he's just gaining a significant advantage every turn that he has.
Yeah, the Righteous Authority is also drawing him extra spells, which will let him keep triggering Extort, in turn keeping him at a higher life total and avoiding him accidentally getting bled out from a sequence that Richie could play.
We have the Self-Mana War coming down, the Deputy of Acquittals, I believe. 2/2 for 2. When he comes in, you can bounce your own creature. That allows him to bounce the, not Sunhome Guildmage, the True Fire Paladin that was arrested, giving him an extra Extort trigger on the Syndic of Ties as well, so pretty good exchange for him.
I feel like I might have been more interested in bouncing Staticaster on my turn in order to kill Krakenura once it blocks a token.
Ooh, that's a pretty good point. Although at this point he has enough mana to make True Fire Paladin, very, very powerful. So.
Yeah, it's definitely 6 of one, half a dozen of the other as far as how we're trying to win this game.
Yeah, I mean he can basically do no wrong at this point. I mean, unless Richie finds some way for him to race or destroy that Assembled Legion, it's just only a matter of time. So ticking clock.
I glanced over Richie's deck list, I'm sorry, and I didn't actually see any way to remove it in his main deck or his sideboard. I could be off, but these things are difficult to decipher.
Yeah.
But
we'll show you the deck list again when it comes back, but it is basically 3 pages big, and everything has a 1 notch next to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his only options are to, in fact, race it, which he can do, reasonably between things like Unflinching Courage and Extort and his flyers, but obviously in this game, that is no longer an option.
Yeah, that Staticaster really playing a huge role in negating a lot of the threats Richie could be deploying here. He does have the Tide Drinker, the 2-mana black-white Extort creature from Dragon's Maze, as well as a Dagger Drone Imp, both of which could potentially have gained him life and helped him race in particular scenarios. But now Joshua up to 7 total soldiers, able to attack every turn, get in some damage, and just keep churning out more guys. His hand's full of spells thanks to the the Righteous Authority. I did it again, didn't I? Thanks, Jesse. So, no, you put it on the screen first.
Because you said it first.
Yeah, he's got you.
Oh, fair. My bad.
The director.
Director daggering me. It's okay.
There's not a lot of cards with authority in their name. It's pretty easy to mix those ones up.
You better respect
my authority.
So we got Annihilating Fire from Joshua, taking out that Krakenura, battling here with most of the squad. Still holding back that Syndic of Ties, not entirely sure why. Maybe he's afraid of a Smite. That was actually the one card that I just thought of that he could potentially be afraid of. So
I think that's reasonable.
Getting in here for 9 damage. Yeah, I mean, he's got a bunch of, Richie's had a couple cards in him the whole game. I guess it's okay to assume that he has some sort of combat trick as opposed to 2 dead creatures.
And at this point, it's all done, but for the scooping of the cards. There isn't really anything in the format that Richie can do to
while we
reverse
wait
this.
for the eventual move on to Game 2, do you want to take a second to talk about GP Miami?
Sure. Are you going?
I'm going.
I'm going too.
I'm going. And as we talked about before, I will be there, and I will be there for the meet and greet for all of the new SCG commemorative tokens. That will be me, Reed Duke, Sam Black, Tom Martell, and Cedric Phillips.
Yep.
There, I got them all that time. All right, so the 5 of us will be there, and we will be involved in a 2-hour meet and greet from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. If you guys want us to get your token signed, you can come have a chat with us. Let us know if we, stink at what we do, or if you like us. Either way, it's fine. But if I'm signing something, I expect not to get berated. But
I mean, you just literally invited that.
Anything can happen. Yeah, it's actually pretty fun, when people come up to you.
The one at Charlotte went pretty well. I think everyone enjoyed it.
Oh yeah. And Jerry, I think, signed like over 200 tokens or something, and they, him and Brad said they really enjoyed talking to all the players and stuff, and it actually makes you feel awesome as a writer to have a ton of people come up to you all at the same time, just saying, hey, I really appreciate what you do.
Yep, it's definitely awesome.
And Star City Games and all the articles they produce and everything, it's rewarding to really feel like you're helping people. Even if it's just a card game, it's strategy. It makes you feel like you're teaching and just like helping people get better at something that they love to do.
Yeah, productive member of a community, always a rewarding sensation.
Yeah, and we're gonna have live coverage done by StarCityGames.com at SCG Live. Cedric Phillips, Osip Levidovic, and Patrick Sullivan all bringing you the action. It's standard format. We're going to have sideboard coverage with both Glenn Jones and Ruben Bressler at the event. So it should be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm from Florida, so it'll be a nice return, although Miami's not really what I consider, it's not my Florida. It's sort of different
It's the bottom of Florida. It's the Florida that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's my
so
grandparents.
says Glenn Jones.
My dad's parents, I should say, are actually from.
So your great-grandparents?
From Florida.
Grandparents?
What?
I don't know. You said your dad's. I don't know.
My
Why would
dad's
you even
parents.
put that moniker on there? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, I have 2 sets of grandparents.
Do you have, I get it, but who cares? No one cares that it's
specifying.
that specific.
Well, if my
grandparents
parents are watching, they're like,
Glenn
well,
Jones.
what, does he even know where we live?
Your parents don't watch this.
You'd be surprised. To be fair, I don't think my grandparents do, which would be the more concerned of the pair.
Now, is it Gram, or is it Granny?
It's
or
Grandma. I'm a simple
Grandma?
guy.
That's
I
you're
got
so
nothing.
boring.
No,
What
I
about
know.
the other grandma? See, because I differentiate between my grandmas with
Well, I
various
mean, they
names.
have different names, so that makes it easier for me.
Whatever, man. Glenn's not a real human being. He's just a robot. It's okay. So we are also giving away an exclusive playmat and a dice bag at the Grand Prix in Miami coming up on June 28th through 30th. The playmat is done by our own Liz Nugent, who did, if you recall, the entirety of the creature collection that Star City Games has been running over the past couple of months. That includes, the penguin with a jetpack, the sweet zombies with the, worms coming out of the eyeball, and
The squirrel stuffing its cheeks.
yeah, the squirrel tokens, and all the tokens you've been seeing on SCG Live that are cute and cuddly. Liz Nugent does those. She has this awesome playmat. It's a bunch of various magic creatures playing at a beach because it's in Miami. It's custom art. It's not a magic art.
It's true.
It's very cool. You can probably take a look at that somewhere on our website, I believe. I don't know
Yeah,
the
it should
exact
be up
link.
in the front marquee still. If you
Sure.
just scroll through that, I believe you can
Right.
take a peek.
And just so you guys know, you are able to pre-register for the Grand Prix at any time. Pre-registering, allows you to skip that gigantic line once you get there. Always a great asset to the Grand Prix, since those lines are really annoying, especially day of.
Yeah, day of can be very long. So if you want to read all about the GP or get pre-registered, you can just go to www.magicgp.com. Sweet, memorable URL. Should be pretty easy to figure that one out.
All right. Well, it looks like right here, Richie Chow is taking a mulligan to 6. Although, no, they were both cutting each other's decks, so perhaps they were just both shuffling for a bit longer. But Richie will be on the play if he so chooses. I think it's pretty common at this point, if both decks are slow, to be on the draw in the sealed format. In Gatecrash, I think that was a huge mistake.
Agree.
Just because, Boros was so popular and just a lightning fast deck with all the battalion cards and all the Blood Rush cards that you could splash off of your red creatures. It was just really hard for you to choose to be on the draw and have it be justifiable. But now, it could really go either way, but I think I personally prefer to draw.
I think I like to draw unless my deck is really heavy on guild gates, in which case I'll often take the play in order
Sure.
to avoid getting shorted on mana for too many of the early turns.
All right. Well, it looks like Richie took the play here. Not a guild gate, so maybe his mana is not perfect. Maybe he has a swamp in there somewhere. Maybe not. We'll see.
Yep.
Oh, yep. He does have a swamp. Looks like he has a black card. It might be a launch party. I originally thought it might have been Thrill Kill Assassin, but I think he definitely would have played that on turn 2 if he had the option.
I saw Launch Party as well, and he's gonna go ahead and get Centaur Healer out against New Prov Guildmage. Combat superiority to the junk deck right now.
Yep. All it takes is 5 whole mana to regain that superiority for a single turn.
What a bargain.
Yeah. So, I mean, New Prov Guildmage, obviously incredibly mana intensive. If the game goes very long, he can just dominate the board, just like a Boros Reckoner can.
Boros Reckoner is a big game. I imagine we're gonna have a target for that launch party relatively soon. Richie also has access to a Pit Fight, I believe, in his hand, an Unflinching Courage, and a Maze Abomination.
Yeah, Pit Fight a bit awkward here against Boros Reckoner, though it can kill the New Proud Guildmage while Josh is tapped out, so there's no shenanigans happening there. It looked like, what's that black card on the very end of Richie's hand?
Maze Abomination.
Maze
6 mana,
Abomination.
4/5 Death Touch. Your multicolored creatures gain Death Touch.
Okay,
Also, nice card to have with Pit Fight.
that's true. I really wish it was Intimidate. You know, the blue one has Flying, the green one has Trample. I really wish it was just some sort of evasion. Maybe they felt like at some point it did have Intimidate, and maybe it was too powerful, and they thought Death Touch, while, you know, being flavorful, would also make it less powerful. Intimidate on all your multicolored creatures does seem pretty good, though.
I think it seems better than it actually is, because all the multicolored creatures are blockable by at least 2 colors.
That's true, and
So-
you know that's also something I didn't think about. And Intimidate is not fear, and it's hard
Yeah.
for me to really, remember that sometimes, just because I'm so ingrained with Intimidate being attached to fear, which was obviously the old school version of Intimidate.
I think that the Intimidate would certainly make Maze Abomination itself a better card.
Right.
But it would probably be a weirder buff for gold creatures. Maybe I don't think it would play that intuitively.
Sure.
With others. But it's certainly another way to take it. Obviously, Intimidate has certainly bled through the color pie.
we have a
years.
land takes these backsies.
Looked like we started with an island, and now he's quickly reconsidering.
Well, I guess
Goes for
chess rules. He
a
didn't take his
mountain?
hand off of it, so
I guess that's what we're going with. I'm curious what
maybe it didn't
brought
actually
about
hit the mat.
what inspired that actual choice.
Racketeer, he wants to maybe discard the island.
That doesn't
well, the
seem-
blue in his deck,
guess.
is it a splash?
He's pretty even across the colors, but I don't think he has any double blue cards.
Okay. Well, I mean,
from
maybe
my
that's
look down.
that's the idea. He wants to discard a land to that Racketeer, but I mean, it could be a variety of reasons. These players, not giving us too much to work with their hands. At least Josh was not. We can see Richie has that Maze Abomination in hand, as well as access to Unflinching Courage in a few turns should he want to. Though it does get blown out pretty heartily by Boros Reckoner.
Yeah, Joshua decided not to attack last turn, had a clear shot at it, obviously, and then flashed in an Is It Staticaster once Richie passed the turn.
Ooh, and maybe he doesn't know the interaction with Staticaster and Boros Reckoner, since you can ping your own Boros Reckoner and deal 1 to the player, so you have the ability to use Staticaster as a true Timmy and not just 1 on creatures.
Yep, it's definitely where I was moving there. Richie could have, been getting ticked down to 22. Hazda Snare Squad from Joshua, that's going to, open up the gates. Joshua already has pretty good attacks, but he doesn't want to, run into a potential danger or, a smite or something like that. Hazda Snare Squad can make sure that doesn't happen.
Right. So here comes the Maze Abomination for Richie. A reasonable sized body. Another creature that's pretty big, can do some cool things with your other smaller creatures that are multicolored, giving them Death Touch so they can trade up with bigger creatures. I'm not really sure how Richie's going to deal with that Boros Reckoner without having to 2-for-1 himself with the launch party.
Yep.
2-for-1ing yourself with launch party is basically what you have to do most of the time, unless your opponent has an arrest, a 1,000 lashes, some sort of pacifism effect in general. And it's basically only good in a hyper-aggressive deck, like the old Rakdos decks from Triple Return of Ravnica. Launch Party allowed you to get in 2 points of damage as well. Not entirely relevant when you're having to sacrifice, one of your 3/3s or something to do it. This Alpha Authority here from Joshua Snyder, though, definitely going to be a 2-for-2 trade.
Yeah, the Righteous Authority's certainly a game changer. It's going to require, now Richie, just has 2 creatures he has to get off the board.
Right.
They're both very good. And Joshua can feel pretty comfortable about it because the Boros Reckoner sat there. Richie hasn't had anything for it. So what are the odds that Richie's suddenly going to have 2 awesome removal spells to get him out of this predicament?
Right. So yeah. Cool thing with the Death Touch on Maze Abomination along with the Unflinching Courage, Richie can actually only have the Maze Abomination assign 1 damage to the Boros Reckoner, and then the rest to Joshua, and that'll keep Boros Reckoner's ability in check, and he won't really be able to trade it off with either of the creatures. What Richie can also do is attack with the Maze Abomination. If Josh wants to trade off the Boros Reckoner with the Maze Abomination using the targeted ability for Boros Reckoner, in response he can throw a launch party at the Snare Squad containing the Alpha Authority, to prevent from getting 2 for 1, and instead goes 3 for 2.
Yeah, you're referring to starting off with Unflinching Courage to get that trample on the Death Touch, right?
Yeah, if you want to, but he couldn't do both this turn. I think that he's just opting to take the safe route, making sure Joshua doesn't get to draw those extra cards.
I agree with killing that creature as well. It seems like the most dangerous of the 2, which is, obviously saying something. Boros Reckoner's a pretty incredible spell. I think that if he was going to make this attack here, it might have been correct to just make the attack first, that way, once Joshua blocks, and he might assign the damage from Reckoner's trigger to the Centaur Healer,
right,
and you just chuck the Centaur Healer in response, save yourself the 4 life that you might lose otherwise. Obviously, it's immaterial, as Richie decided not to attack anyway.
Okie doke. We got a Prophetic Prism, a little more color fixing here, drawing a card. Looks like it drew a Sunspire Griffin. Old Chapelgeist without the ghost part.
Chapelgeist without the ghost part.
What do you want from me,
no,
man?
that's an accurate description of
He's not
Sunspire
a spirit.
Griffin.
He's a griffin.
He is, in fact,
it says
not a
it
spirit.
right on the card. Peter
does.
Griffin says it right there.
The Sunspire Griffin is going to give Joshua a way to actually start clocking in for damage. The board has been stable for a really long time here with Boros Reckoner staring down creatures that aren't as good as Boros Reckoner.
Yeah.
So Richie's going to have to make some moves now.
So, Richie could see the whole Death Touch trample thing. It looks like he's going to suit up here with his Unflinching Courage. I could just be casting the Key Rune, though. The whole Death Touch plus Trample interaction is a little different from what a lot of players are used to, They just see, oh, my guy has Death Touch, and Trample, so I'll just assign 3 to your guy, it'll kill it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, he can deal very little damage to the Boros Reckoner. He could also be playing around some sort of removal spell, but if you're going to do that, why are you going to play Unflinching Courage in the first place?
Yeah. I think he probably... I don't know. I feel like maybe last turn or this turn for sure, I would have, gone ahead, decided to start getting in with that Maze Abomination. The game's not going to get better. Richie's deck doesn't have a bomb like Assemble the Legion. He can't really, just take over the game, and he knows that Joshua has that possibility. If the game goes long enough, Joshua will find Assemble the Legion. Yep. Richie knows his deck doesn't have an answer to it, and it'll just take him down.
Yeah, and I think at this point it's also safe to assume that Josh does not know the interaction with Boros Reckoner and Zetacaster. Mm-hmm. He's already passed quite a few turns with both in play with that ability to do so. Those few points of damage he's missing, are adding up, and if he gets to a point later in the game where he doesn't necessarily have complete control, those last few points that he's missing here could cost him dearly.
They could, especially considering Richie is an Extort deck. Obviously, Extort works on the nickel and diming factor, and when you're leaving nickels on the table, that just makes Extort a little bit better.
Yep. All right. Well, there's a Gift of Orzhova. Coming on the Boros Reckoner, going to deal 6 total damage to Richie, gaining Josh 4. We're probably going to see the Unflinching Courage now, since he's going to try to have to match that Boros Reckoner and just lose to a removal spell if Josh has got it.
Now his Staticaster's a tiny little lightning helix, too.
Yeah, could be. But still don't think he's going to see it. That is pretty interesting, though, that now he also gains the life, in addition to being able to deal the damage after pinging.
Build your own Extort. The Unflinching Courage is going to land on something this turn. It looks like it's going to be the biggest creature.
Yeah,
I think that's
I assume it's going to be the
choice.
gigantic Death Touch guy, Probably not the Golgari Key Rune, since it would fall off after, but I'm pretty sure he's just going to bring in all those creatures, and what I say.
I was just, basking in the glory of Unflinching
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's just Armadillo Cloak.
Dude, it's a sweet spell.
Dude, it's Armadillo Cloak.
I can still be excited about it.
No, I'm saying it's awesome. I don't know.
Oh, you're saying I'm not supposed to call it Unflinching Courage?
Yeah.
All right.
Come on.
So it's a Armadillo Cape?
Armadillo Cape? Really?
I mean, it's,
You're killing me,
it's,
man.
it's different. It's a little
That's
different.
true. You know, it is lifelink and not whenever this creature deals
Yeah.
damage, etc., etc.
It lacks the defensive capability Armadillo Cloak actually was seldom used for, but obviously could be relevant every now and again. And thanks to the new lifelink rules, obviously gaining the life on the spot can matter a lot in combat,
That's
especially
true,
with
but
this
if you
high-powered
play
format.
2, you don't gain double the life.
That's also true. Yep.
I put 2 Armadillo Cloaks on so many creatures. I had this sweet Rabid Wombat deck back in the day. You know, it was an 0-1, but every time you enchant him, he gets +2,
Oh,
+2.
I'm
Plus the
familiar.
boost from your Rancors, plus the boost from your Armadillo Cloaks. That's a pretty good draw there.
Keening Apparition will dismantle Unflinching Courage. It'll bring the Maze Abomination back down to a normal level of bravery, and that's probably just going to put him so far behind.
That was so good. I'm so jealous. A normal level of bravery.
I mean, it took Unflinching Courage before he entered the red zone, right? So
That's true. Yeah, he's probably just gonna hold him back now for fear of the empty hand.
I don't know. I feel like you just got to keep attacking
Well,
at this
obvious.
point.
I was joking.
Yeah. But he holds back the Thrill Kill Assassin. I would definitely have sent that one.
Yeah, it can't block, man. Come on.
What's it gonna do?
I guess he could have just chump sacked and it didn't matter. But now he could have chump sacked that guy and taken 0 damage. Did he
Right.
just okay? So there's all sorts of business going on. Could have blocked the Maze Abomination and then sacrificed the King Apparition to, you know, not take any damage. Instead, opposite take 4.
Oh, he did take the damage.
I
Oh.
saw him reach for his life pad. Maybe I could be wrong, because I know Richie didn't gain life since
Sure.
the Armadillo Cloak was gone.
5 mana. That's a Summon Legion mana, but it's Sunspire Gatekeepers with Extort.
Ding. So basically, at this point, whenever they tap X mana, we have to assume it's X spell +1, unless he
Yeah.
completely taps out. So,
Yeah, Tristani
Sunspire
Summoner
Gatekeeper.
is about the only one that would
Right.
matter.
So Sunspire Gatekeepers, pretty solid here. You don't see the Gatekeepers triggering too often, but Joshua Snyder does have an abundance of Guild Gates in his deck in order to help splash things like his Tristani Summoner, as well as just his 3 colors.
Richie draws Fatal Fumes, one of the weaker removal spells from Dragon's Maze. I've actually gone from, thinking that card is okay to just really disliking it. I mean, obviously, you probably wind up playing it the majority of the time, or at least a significant amount of the time, but I don't think you're ever eager to do so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reasonable combat trick sometimes, though.
Right.
You know,
That's definitely its strongest spot.
shrinking the opponent's creature's power is pretty solid. You know, you can occasionally kill a random X2 flyer like an Assault Griffin, but with so many creatures in this format having 3 toughness or greater, I can really see where that card would just be a dud a lot of the time.
In my play during the Magic Online DDD drafts and the sealed releases, I would say it was probably the most misread card in the set, as I had it cast on any number of Gatekeepers pre-combat.
Oh yeah, I
to
did
just
that
do nothing.
in the very first draft I did. I attacked, I tried to kill, a 2 or no, I tried to kill a 3/3 with it, I think, because I thought it was -2, -4, and it
Uh-huh.
could kill 4 toughness creatures, but
That would be a lot better.
not quite as good. And Richie about to cast it on Sunspire Griffin and not kill it, so
Yeah, I think we want to aim for the Boros Reckoner if that's our plan here.
maybe
it's
the
not-
Syndic of Ties.
Yeah,
just
it's
to
either
get off
Reckoner
the
or
board.
Syndic of Tides. I think those are the 2 choices. Syndic of Tides, obviously we kill it, and we're hoping that the 2 extra damage the Boros Reckoner would deal is not made up by the, or would be made up by the Extort that you're knocking out. But he's going to go ahead and take care of the lifelink, which is, a very real concern. That's kind of that's what tips it over for me. It's basically an anti-War Leader's Helix here. Shuts down 4 damage and prevents Joshua from getting 4 life.
Yeah, but when your opponent has 3 blockers still, it just doesn't matter. So.
Yeah.
And Richie sees that there's no way he's going to win, packs it in.
Yeah, I think in both those games, obviously Joshua stumbled in the first one, but then, once he could start playing his spells, they were just better than Richie's. They quickly outclassed the game.